President Trump yesterday at his news conference said that the coronavirus could be with us for many more months than we thought, maybe through the summer, and says it could cause a recession. He's not saying it will, he said it could. That's not the news investors or anybody wanted to hear. The Dow dropped one of its biggest falls yesterday, almost 3,000 points. That was the biggest, we're not sure if it was the biggest, but it's one of the biggest of all time. The NASDAQ did have the biggest drop of all time. This morning we're talking with a certified financial advisor, Jason Bezou, on what the coronavirus means to your finances. And this, it's not just Wall Street we're looking at. We're looking at people's personal finances, because if this goes on for, instead of weeks, for months, people will be out of work, people will be spending less, the market will continue to fall, and people will go through their life savings.
Absolutely.
And what do you suggest for most people to do right now?
Well, when you're talking about somebody who's got investments that they've got a portfolio and they've got a financial planner, they've planned for this. We've expected these kind of things to happen. We know this kind of stuff drops, and we
never planned for a drop like this, though.
Well, not necessarily a drop like this fast and out of left field and what caused it, but we've been through these things before, and we've got plans in place. The real fear about it are the people who don't really have plans in place, that are living paycheck to paycheck, like you said. And
because about half this country, half the population does live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, no question. And the thing is, like, the good news about this particular situation is that there is the government assistance. Everybody comes together. There's people involved. They're handing out food, this kind of crisis. But this is an eye-opener for the times in your life when you're not part of a big crisis. And something happens to you that comes out of left field and hits your life and debilitates you, and having a plan in place that gets you through these times when nobody else seems to care and nobody else can relate. At least this time, we'll get through this because everybody's coming together. Even the president and Congress are getting along a little bit now.
Well, and in 2008, when the federal government bailed out some of the big financial institutions, the suggestion has been by many that if they can do that for big banks, they can do that for the American public.
Yeah, no question, and I think they're doing it.
Is that a reality, do you think?
I think it is a reality, and the good news is that the economy has been in such a good shape for a while. I mean, the thing that hit us really is that for so long this has kept going. When we say we expect this, we've expected this to happen a lot sooner. And so things were good, and I think they're in a position where they can. Now, who knows, if this gets much worse, yeah, it might be, who knows where they can help.
But the one thing nobody expected is that I remember a week or two ago when the jobs report came out, it was 100,000 more than expected. The market still plummeted. And yesterday, after the Fed had lowered the interest rate by a full percentage point, down to near zero, we were down almost 3,000 points on the Dow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And for so long, any bad news just seemed to be brushed off by the investors, and it just kept going up. And all of a sudden now, nothing good they can do seems to keep it.
And what do you suggest? And most financial advisors do tell people you should have in reserve months ahead. And this points out why.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, so many people got used to just going up and up and up. They were like, why am I only making 8 or 9%? And even though they were only expecting 5 or 6, and they started getting a little bit greedy, started getting overly confident. And this is an eye opener. And this is why it makes sense. These moments, if we can learn from them and remember them, 5 years from now, we don't want to forget this. We have to remember.
And before we go, any glimmer of hope at all?
I think so. I mean, you know, we all have our different ideas, but we'll get through this. We've been through Katrina, we've gotten through, and at some point, we come together. We've got this. I mean, everybody's coming together. Everybody's in this. Well, not together. We're having to get apart, I guess. But we're finding ways, and together we will get through this. I think there is hope, and I'm hopeful, and I'm confident that eventually. It's just a matter of how long, and can you sustain it and do the businesses that have.
Well, we hope you're correct. Coming up on our 8:30 half hour over on WWL, Jason will be answering some of the questions you may have about the coronavirus and your finances. If you have a question and need an answer, you can text it to 504-529-4444. Let's take a look at the numbers on Wall Street. They were just down. Now they're up more than 160 points, but that'll be bouncing around all day. We have seen the market go up and down on some pretty wild swings. Yesterday, it was down almost 3,000 points. The Dow, all three major indices had an awful day yesterday. The NASDAQ had its biggest one-day loss in the index's history. Let's get back to our certified financial advisor, Jason Bezou, on what the coronavirus means to your finances. And let's start where it's hurting people the most. This is not a problem with the economy so much, or with the banks like we saw in the Great Recession. This is going to be a financial crisis for almost everybody in America, whether you're rich or poor or somewhere in between.
Absolutely, no question about it. And like you said earlier, I think that if they can somehow get the stimulus to the people and get consumer spending again, like they did the bailout with the banks, then we should be able to get through this. And that's the hard thing, is how long is this going to last?
And again, if it lasts a long time and people start losing businesses and jobs or without income for a long time, that's where it starts really affecting the economy, and will make it harder to come back, because a good chunk of the economy is based on consumer spending, and if consumers cut back, then it's going to be hard to recover, or harder to recover.
Absolutely, no question about it. And I think that people will start to come back. It's just a matter of how long does this thing go? How long does this virus go? The uncertainty here is what's making it just collapse, and everybody's so scared. But if this thing can get taken care of quickly, and the consumer can get back to spending and getting back to their normal lives, I feel like we still got enough fundamentals in the economy, unlike we had in 2008, that it could come back quickly. But if it drags on, it could be some pain.
And what are you telling your clients right now? Because if you don't have to, if you're invested in a 401k or an IRA or a Roth IRA, now's not the time to pull out.
Right, that's true. There are some situations, though, where somebody has money, they don't have that reserve that you talked about.
Then they have to.
And they have to, because what if they lose their job, or they're looking at losing their job, and they have to have some in cash just to put enough aside, so if it goes further, they don't want to have to sell when it's down. So it's a case-by-case basis, and each person, I get just as many people calling wanting to buy right now in this dip as I do people saying, oh, if this keeps going down, and sell. So each person, it's just a matter of really understanding them. And the most important thing for the person talking to their advisors, just be as honest and open, just like doctors. When you go into the doctor, you have to tell them where you've been, who you've talked to. If you're open and honest and trust the person that you're working with, lay it out for them, and they're your concerns, because they're going to ask the questions and help to guide you, and they have to understand where you're coming from, what are the things that could hit you personally, and that will help to decide whether you sell some now, buy more, and all those things.
And again, what are your personal circumstances?
Right.
Are you a business person who is losing his or her business? Are you being laid off from your job? I mean, you do want to be open.
Right. Each person is very different, and their situation's different. And I don't just mean like risk tolerance and all that. It's what job are you in? What line of industry? Are there layoffs coming? If so, maybe put a little cushion in there, even if you have to sell a little at a loss now, just in case it gets worse. Otherwise, if you've got enough covered to cover you for the next, however long this could last, then I think that you're better off just kind of hanging in there.
And right now, quickly, the U.S. economy over the past several weeks has lost $15-20 trillion. That's going to be a hard one to make up in a short amount of time.
Yes, unless this thing turns around quick, it may just pop back really quick if it's all.
That's
resolved.
the most optimistic, but
Yeah.
you gotta hope for the best and plan for the worst.
But you have to plan for the worst.
All right, Jason, thank you for coming in. We appreciate that. You can stay connected with the latest information about the coronavirus, how it's affecting your health and your finances, by texting the word virus to 504-529-4444. We'll send you a link that will lead up to the most important and updated headlines.